Hello everyone, my name is Peiyu Chen from New York. My topic is A Philosopher's Qing Sound, and the subtitle is Comparison of Two Qing Players' Performances to Understand Their Interpretation. The Qing player Xu Hong, who lived from the late 16th century to early 17th century, wrote a very important text about the aesthetic of Guqing called Xishan's Epictetus on Qing music. Xu Hong mentioned that he was constantly seeking three kinds of harmony. First, harmony between strings and fingers, then harmony between fingers and the sound, and finally, harmony between the sound and the mind. He believed that once these three are in harmony, the highest degree of harmony is achieved. Influenced by the idea of a harmony between the sound and the mind, I have analyzed the two masters, Yue Yin from last century in Beijing and Zhuang Xi, who passed away 2 years ago in Taiwan. I have used the recordings of Liezi, Yu Feng, Liezi Writes on the Wind, from each artist to help in my comparison. Master Yue Yin and Master Zhuang Xi are two interesting candidates for this study. The reasons are their playing is considered quite moving. They have very different playing styles. They both are female Qing players and specialized in silk string. Yue Yin was the only female recording collected in Lao Ba Zhang, the old 8 collections. Not many female philosopher Qing players are well known. Zhuang Xi was a philosopher Qing player. She studied philosophy in college. They both dapu and played the Taoist piece, Liezi Writes on the Wind. Dapu is the activity of teaching yourself a particular piece from the original notation without a teacher. The categories of comparison that I'm going to discuss today are two masters' life backgrounds and their playing of Liezi Writes on the Wind. Now I will briefly talk about their life backgrounds. Here are photos of Yue Yin from young to young adult to her mid-age. From these photos, we can sort of see that Yue Yin was growing up in a traditional art atmosphere environment and living a rather wealthy life at that time. Yue Yin was born in Beijing in 1904. She was the first daughter of Yue Jingyu, who was the owner of the oldest and now the largest Chinese pharmaceutical company, Tongren Tang. Yue Yin started learning the Guqing at age 8 from Jia Kuofeng, who was a businessman before he became a Guqing teacher. Jia Kuofeng's teacher was Huang Mianzhi. Huang was the most famous Guqing teacher in Beijing during the late 19th to early 20th century. Yue Yin had her first public performance at age 13 in 1917. In 1962, she recorded Liezi Writes on the Wind at age 58. Here are some photos of Zhuang Xi. The second one from the right was taken in 2013 when she performed the Liezi Writes on the Wind at Nantou, Taiwan, when she was 64 years old. And that was the playing she decided to put into her solo album, the Crane Singing Collection, He Mingji. Zhuang Xi was born in Hsinchu, Taiwan, majored in philosophy in Furen Catholic University. She studied guqin with Master Sun Yuqing when she was 23 years old in 1972. She established Tianmuge Silk String Qing Society in 2003. She wrote several articles related to guqin and arts. In 1998, at the Guqin Exploration of Body and Mind event, she mentioned that, quote, "I feel that we should seek inner spirits and not simply lose ourselves in the aesthetics of music. This does not mean that beautiful music is not good music, but that it is best to seek progress from the true inner meaning of music." Yue Yin's 列子 Rides on the Wind is collected both in the Old 8 collections and 绝响. Zhuang Xi's 列子 Rides on the Wind is from her solo album, the Crane Singing Collection. Now let's look at the piece 列子 Rides on the Wind. From Ming to Qing dynasties, there are 34 Qing manuscripts carrying this piece. 神奇秘谱, published in 1425, is the earliest surviving manuscript carrying 列子 Rides on the Wind. According to 神奇秘谱, it was composed by Mao Mingzhong from Southern Song Dynasty, based on a Taoist story from 列子皇帝 chapter. Master Yue Yin was using 沿路楼琴谱 published in 1766. Master Zhuang Xi was using 自远堂琴谱 published in 1803. 自远堂琴谱 had a statement mentioning that 沿路楼琴谱 was one of the 琴谱 that 自远堂 used for reference. These 10 titles from 神奇秘谱 could help Qing players to understand this piece better. Although 言谱 and 字谱 do not have these titles. Now, let's see how different 列子 Rides on the Wind is in these two handbooks. Here is a record of differences in each section in both handbooks. From my next slide, we can see some examples. In general, 列子 Rides on the Wind in these two handbooks are about 80% the same with 20% differences. They both have 10 sections, and the construction of each section is the same. This is the first section of both handbooks, and the red lines are the differences, such as 波 vs 托, repeat from angle mark, or repeat from the beginning. 短锁 vs 小锁, and where to do vibrato, such as 赢 or now, 错 注 撞 斗 换, and the comma, period, and pause indication. Regarding the 波 and 托, according to the fingering explanation of both handbooks, basically 波 in 沿路楼 and 托 in 自远堂 means the same, that they both are plucking the same direction with the thumb, and does not affect the sound pitch. Here is a chart. I list out the differences on hui positions indication by strings. For example, on the 5th string, one note 沿路楼琴谱 indicate on 6 hui, while 自远堂琴谱 indicate on 6.3 hui. And the two players played differently as well. Yue Yin played on 5.8, while Zhuang Xi did play on 6.3. The biggest difference between the players playing is a note on the 6th string that created a 2.5 step difference in pitch, while the handbooks indicated the same position, the same hui position. Here is another difference of how many times the indication of repeat 急 and slow 缓 shows in both handbooks. By checking the notation of repeat and slow, It might help us to sense the tempo of the piece. Section 6 has more repeat indication in 沿路楼琴谱 than 自远堂琴谱. Now, we are going to hear some music. Before I play some of the sound recordings, I would like to explain that with respect to the note and pitch analysis, I first had to lower the pitch of Yue Yin's recording by 1.01 semitones without changing the tempo in order to make the comparison easier. Yue Yin's playing was pretty fast. I just have to assume that the recording of Yue Yin's playing is accurate on tempo. This slide is to show pitches of the first and second notes from the very beginning of both recordings. On the left, I have two images together, the adjusted and the original recordings of Yue Yin. On the right is from Zhuang Xi's recording. Assuming A equals 440 Hz, Yue Yin's original tuning were closer and higher to B at the first string, while Zhuang Xi's tuning were closer and higher to B flat at the first string. Here I marked up two phrases from the beginning of the first section of both players. The top one is from Yue Yin's playing. The bottom one is from Zhuang Xi's playing. If we read the notes starting from the left, we can see that Zhuang Xi played a longer opening note, as if she had a Shao Xi noted there. And this is just her interpretation. It is not noted in the tablature. Now let's see the blue arrow, which is different between the two tablatures, where the phrasing of the tablature is indicated with a period. If you look above, the blue arrow shows that 沿路楼琴谱 indicates that the opening phrase should be longer by 3 notes. However, both players interpreted different. Zhuang Xi's phrasing is as if she moved the period over to the second note next to it. And the blue underlines from Yue Yin's part is that the tablature indicate to repeat from the angle mark, while 自远堂琴谱 indicate repeat from the beginning. Yue Yin did play repeating from the angle mark, and she played in different tempo within 2 times, while Zhuang Xi totally omitted the repeating. Then we see a red note added on both recordings, that is Li 6-2, and both players played Li 7-2. And then Yue Yin's recording sound like she did not play La Fu, but a sliding on first string up to 7th Hui, then lift up her left hand. While Zhuang Xi's recording sound like her left middle on first string 7th Hui was omitted, and quickly did a stronger accent on the La and Fu. Let's listen. When we hear the recording, we will hear Yue Yin's playing first, then followed by Zhuang Xi's recording. This slide is to show one similar fingering, which are those 2 red underlined notes, 短锁 and 小锁. 短锁 is to repeat a note to create total 5 notes, while 小锁 is to repeat a note to create a total 3 notes. One player followed exactly while the other altered. We will hear that Yue Yin played exactly 5 notes, which I marked 5 red vertical bars, while Zhuang Xi only played 2 notes, which is 1 note less than the technique Xiao Suo supposed to create. Let's listen. Here we will hear a recording from section 6. Yue Yin add an extra note to play together with Tiao fifths as cuo to make the sound bolder. At the bottom, Zhuang Xi again played slower, and she changed one vibrato note, zhuang, to a sliding note, 注下, to simplify the sound. And the blue color is one specific fingering that's supposed to create total 8 notes, but Yue Yin played total 11 notes, while Zhuang Xi played 8 notes. The previous slide shows the 2 handbooks indicate one same playing technique, but the players took liberties. This slide shows a phrase from section 9 where the handbooks differ, and the players also took liberties here, which were respect to hui positions. The red circled notes shows the hui positions differ in the 2 handbooks. And the red numbers I marked are the hui positions the players played. Let's listen. This recording is from couple phrases of section 6. Yue Yin followed the handbooks she was using, excepting some sliding and vibratos, while Zhuang Xi took her liberties by omitting 6 notes, which are those green-colored ones, and adding 1 sliding and 1 plucking note. She also varied her technique, such as sliding down to the 8th instead of plucking that string on the 8th way. And she seems to have more accented notes than Yue Yin. Let's listen. After hearing some of the recording, here is a chart to show how many notes both players omitted or added. Obviously, Zhuang Xi omitted more notes than Yue Yin and also add more notes than Yue Yin. However, even Zhuang plucking fewer notes, She still used more time than Yue Yin. This is a chart to show time used in seconds of each section of both players. The yellow color is Yue Yin's playing. The blue color is Zhuang Xi's playing. Yue Yin used a total 7 minutes 40 seconds, while Zhuang Xi used a total 9 minutes 24 seconds. The red line indicates the tempo. This is my best attempt to finding the tempos of each piece. Yue Yin has bigger range of tempo, and it does show that she played faster on section 5 to section 7, while Zhuang Xi's tempo is more even. Conclusion. The difference between each handbook that the two players were using could make Qing players play differently, but the major difference is still relying on the interpretation of the Qing players. Zhuang Xi simplified some of the fingerings to play fewer notes, but add more vibrato to elongate the distance between notes to create more yun. She used the ancient notation as a frame and developed her own new piece of Liezi Rides on the Wind based on that frame. That is well reflected to her talk in Guqing, Exploration of Body and Mind. She was seeking her ideal genuine ancient sound to match her mind. Yue Yin, although not much information left for us to study, through her recording, one can still recognize that she was more disciplined to the notation she was using and played with energetic, well-knit, and firm sound. As you know, the way that Qing music is noted allows for a great deal of interpretation in tempo, timbre, dynamics, and accent. However, these two scholars went beyond the notation on the page and added some of their own notes and techniques based on the underlying tablature, almost like a little bit of improvising. Finally, although they had very different playing styles, they both reached the highest degree of harmony between the sound and the mind. Thank you.